Continuing coverage of breaking news, 3 men arrested in the shooting death of Shreveport Officer Chatéri Payne.
Now, where there's many questions unanswered, we're going to head out now to the Shreveport Police Department where they are holding a news conference.
Good morning. I would like to show my appreciation for the support and leadership. We have Mayor Perkins with us this morning, as well as Chairman Bowman from City Council. Both have worked with us very closely over the last week and been very supportive of my officers and my staff during this investigation. I also want to especially recognize the men and women you see beside me, behind me, around this room, many of whom have worked tirelessly since last Wednesday night to arrest the killers of Officer Chatéri Payne. The detectives, officers, deputies, troopers, and agents you see with me this morning represent law enforcement departments from the local, state, and federal levels of government who have worked collectively to bring some justice to the family of Officer Payne and our fellow officers. We are still mourning the heinous murder of Officer Payne, but thanks to these men and women, we can have some peace in taking 3 evil cowards off of our streets so they cannot harm anyone else. The collective investigative efforts of the Shreveport Police Department, the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office, the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office, the Louisiana State Police, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and many other agencies resulted in the arrest of Travion Anderson, Glenn Frierson, and Lawrence Pierre for the brutal murder of Officer Chatéri Payne on January 9, 2019. These men and women represent some of the finest investigative minds in the state of Louisiana and the nation as a whole. In addition to their efforts, we have had numerous officers step forward and work countless overtime hours in order to provide crime scene security, work additional shifts to allow for their comrades to focus on this investigation, assist the family with funeral, travel arrangements, and meals, and to help fellow law enforcement officers work through the difficult process of coping with the loss of a friend and a coworker. As I share information about this case with you, please understand the investigation is still ongoing and the prosecutorial phase of the criminal justice system is just beginning. I will not provide any information which could affect the judicial process. As you know, officers were dispatched to 1633 Midway Avenue at around 8:19 p.m. on January 9, 2019, responding to reports of a female gunshot victim. Officers arrived on scene to find Officer Chatéri Payne suffering from several gunshot wounds. She was transported to Ochsner Health and succumbed to her injuries at about 10:17 p.m. Travion Anderson, the boyfriend of Chatéri Payne and father of their young child, was present when the shooting occurred and was brought to the detective office for questioning. He advised he was inside the residence when he heard gunshots, then went outside and shot at a person wearing all black clothing, whom he believed to be the suspect. He then noticed that Officer Payne had been shot. Anderson was released following his statements to investigators late Wednesday night. Evidence recovered during the course of the investigation led detectives to develop Travion Anderson as a suspect in the murder. We believe Anderson shot and killed her and concocted the false narrative of her being murdered by an unknown suspect. 2 other men, Pierre and Frierson, have been charged in connection with the murder as well. We have also recovered the weapon we believe to have been used. All 3 men were arrested and charged with second-degree murder. We will never understand the evil that exists in this world. One of my favorite quotes is, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Thank God for the men and women who proudly wear a uniform every day. Women like Officer Chatéri Payne, who willingly took an oath to serve the citizens of this city. We may never know whether Officer Payne's chosen profession contributed to her death, but we do know a uniformed police officer was killed moments before beginning her shift. This is the time for us to stand united as a community and support the family of Officer Payne. The news of having arrested her murderers does not mean our job has ended. This is a small sense of relief because the fact is a young lady, a young mother, a young daughter, a young officer in the prime of her life was killed in a senseless act of violence, which is far too common in today's society. Unfortunately, we are still working to solve other violent crimes which have affected our community. This is not a time for celebration, and the men and women in law enforcement know there are more cases which need investigating, more crime scenes which need to be worked, and more evil still walking the streets. Although this case has brought more attention to our investigative efforts than most, our men and women work countless hours to solve every crime which occurs within our city. Furthermore, we have always worked with our partner agencies and will continue to fight crime as a collective front. Myself or Mayor Perkins will answer a few questions at this time, but again, I'm not going to be able to release very many more pertinent details about the investigation itself. It's Mr. Payson.
Chief, thank you for your candor. One of the questions, and I know a lot of people have asked this, A, was there Facebook post involved that kind of led a little bit on this investigation, and B, was one of those that was apprehended a deputy clerk at the Juvenile Justice Court?
I do believe it has been reported that one of the three suspects was a deputy clerk. I assume that information to be true. I hate to use the word assume. I have not checked it myself, but I do believe that to be accurate. Certainly, the rest records are public knowledge, and that information can be easily obtained. As far as Facebook posts, I do know that there were a number of investigative tools utilized, and technology certainly plays a role in all investigations with cell phones and Facebook and computers and things such as that, but I don't know specifically whether a Facebook post provided direct evidence in this case.
Chief, why second-degree murder, and what were the relationships between the three? Did they know each other? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I do believe they knew each other. I'm not sure if they were related, if they were relatives or not. Certainly we know that Travion Anderson was the boyfriend and father of the child that he and Officer Payne had together. Second-degree murder is what the investigators felt was the appropriate charge at this stage of the investigation. It is still an ongoing investigation. Just because we make arrests doesn't mean that we're done at this point. And certainly the District Attorney's Office, when reviewing the case, always has the option of amending charges, and if they feel it's appropriate to amend those charges, then they'll certainly do that.
I know you said that you can't reveal a lot of details about this investigation, but from what you said here, it sounds like Anderson was the shooter. Did the other two men fire shots at any point? What was their role?
They were just accomplices, and I don't know that we can release specifically what their role was at this point, but certainly they met the level of being charged with the murder.
Chief, are you able to say where you guys found the weapon that was used?
I don't have the specific location. It was within a residence.
Was there a domestic violence component to this?
Certainly there was a romantic relationship between one of the murderers and Officer Payne. So exactly whether you coin that domestic violence, I think you could, but I don't know. I'm not completely clear on what events occurred prior to the murder.
And do you know how long that relationship had been ongoing?
I do not.
Any indication that Anderson and Payne was engaged? As you mentioned to that previously.
I've heard that as well, but I'm not aware if that were an accurate statement or not.
Was there a fourth person involved in the hearing, or was another person arrested?
No, only 3 have been arrested this time. Now, that does not mean other people are not involved, because again, it's an ongoing investigation, and that we don't stop just because we put 1 or 2 or 3 people in jail. If we determine other people were involved, then charges will follow.
And then question, did they share that home on Midway Avenue?
It is my understanding they did. Mm-hmm.
That's Payne and Anderson, correct? Just for clarification.
Sir?
Officer Payne and Mr. Anderson lived in that.
Correct.
Okay.
Was it Payne's gun that they used to shoot her with?
It was not. And again, we'll continue to update if more information comes out, but certainly this is the some of the closure we were looking for, and we want to continue to allow the family to grieve, and we still have a funeral to prepare for and some more investigative efforts.
What was the weapon you retrieved?
I do know it was a .40 caliber handgun, but I'm not aware of.
Chief, I think Garrett Lawrence was the first person arrested at 3. Did he lead you to the other 2, or?
I'm not sure exactly what evidence investigators used to make the 3 arrests at this point.
And can we say that all 3 were there during the shooting? All 3?
I don't think that would be an accurate statement. Certainly Anderson was present, but I don't think it would be accurate at this point to say all 3 were present during the shooting.
Did you ever say if the child was there at the time?
The child was present inside the home. I do not believe the child witnessed the shooting, but I'm not positive.
Chief, on his Facebook post, Travion writes, "Me and Ashley finally go a nasty one. She got one more time to raise her little voice at me and tell me to be quiet. Ashley, you going to daycare in the morning? No, for what? Me, so you can learn and be smart." And then she went on to say, "But you can't tell me what to do. I'm the queen." And these are posts that Travion put on his Facebook page. Does that seem like culpability, threats?
Certainly sounds like it could be circumstantial evidence, but I can assure you that the investigators behind me are aware of any posts that were made, any comments that have been made, and they're continuing to work those leads. But I thank you all for coming out this morning and your show of support to law enforcement community as a whole. One more question, and then we'll
And I'm
end.
sorry we've already covered this. Who called 911?
I believe it was Anderson. Thank y'all.
Is the mayor going to speak?
No, I can. I think the police chief did a really good job at addressing the situation, and I'll just let him leave the remarks with him. So.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
All right, that was live coverage from Shreveport Police Headquarters, hearing from Police Chief Ben Raymond, giving what they are able to now on what happened last week.
So some of the most important things he mentioned there is that Travion Anderson, one of the 3 men arrested in Officer Chatéri Payne's shooting death, was the boyfriend and father of their child, and they do believe he is the one who pulled the trigger.
And of course, the investigation is ongoing, and we will be able to keep you updated with the latest on that on our website, arclatexhomepage.com. But as far as this week, as Chief Raymond mentioned, they now turn their attention to the funeral arrangements, which have been set for later this week.
Yeah, public viewing Friday at noon at Winfield Funeral Home. The funeral will be Saturday morning, 11 o'clock at Summer Grove Baptist, and she'll be buried at the Forest Park West Cemetery.
You can find out more of that on our website, arclatexhomepage.com, and be sure to tune in tonight on NBC6 News at 5 for more on this breaking news coverage.
Now head back to regularly scheduled programming.